Hey everybody, Joseph Rothschild here, aka Mono Bluetron, back again with another episode of 10-minute testing. I don't know where this is coming from. Today we're looking at an exciting and innovative strategy that attempts to use some of the new tools afforded to everyone's favorite deck, Galaxy Photon. Hopefully a new Link monster and some new main deck playables will cure my apparently rapid onset narcolepsy. Let's take a peek into Deck Edit and see what it is that we're playing. Sorry, must have dozed off there for a second. So here's the deck, and well, it's Photon Galaxy, which isn't exactly a compliment, but it isn't a dig either. As always, I'll give you a little bit of background about the archetype, a little bit of a discussion about what I hope the deck can do, and as always, the card by card. So firstly, for those of you that don't know, Photon Galaxy is the Olive Garden of strategies. It's not bad, per se, it's just... let me explain it like this. You know how sometimes when you're playing a mid-range deck, you draw into a completely different half of your deck than normal, and the games play out wildly differently? How sometimes you have to snatch victory from the hands of an opener with 4 hand traps in it? How intimate knowledge of your deck, your cards, and your win conditions can propel you to victory over an opponent who knows less about their list? Yeah, none of that ever happens in Photon. Photon is an extremely samey deck with enough searchers to ensure you're always finding the exact same mediocre but optimal line. Certainly there's a benefit to consistency, but there's also a benefit to adaptability, and this ain't it, Chief. Photon Galaxy's monsters do some pretty interesting stuff, mostly level modulation between 4 and 8, which enables extremely powerful tribal ranks and ranks. Not sure how I should be pronouncing that. But unfortunately, as anyone who's lived through the last 2 years can tell you, making a Hope Harbinger and hoping isn't exactly a winning strategy. However, there's a couple of things to be excited about. Photon is one of the few archetypes afforded a tribal link monster, and it's kinda busted. It's makeable with any 2 light monsters, provided one has at least 2,000 attack, and on summon recycles a Galaxy Eyes Photon Dragon from your grave, which is both the easiest searched and the most available monster for fodder in the deck. Then it can destroy a special summoned monster during your opponent's turn, provided you discard both a Photon and a Galaxy monster, or exactly 1 Galaxy Eyes Photon Dragon. It's like a little baby Drident, and when it's backed up with Galaxy Photon's classic and consistent line of CDI or rank 8s, it might just be enough to prevent my 1,000-year slumber at the hands of this hibernation-inducing archetype. Add a couple of recently released searchers, and maybe I don't have to skip the ambient tonight after all. So with that, let's get into the card by card. First, the hallmark of the deck, 3 Galaxy Eyes Photon Dragon. Next is the card that enables simple rank 8s, Galaxy Knight, followed by the card that enables CDI, Galaxy Soldier. After that, we have Photon Thrasher, which is a great way to generate link material without using a normal summon, Photon Vanisher, which searches the Dagron, and Photon Orbital, a magnificent searcher that protects your monsters as well. Finally, pulling up the rear, we have Galaxy Wizard and 3 Ash Blossom. For spells, we're on 3 Photon Sanctuary, the worm bait of the archetype, and a 1-card Soulflare Dragon. 3 Excel Light, 2 Desires, 2 Galaxy Expedition, which I'm not sold on, 1 Soul Charge, 1 Monster Reborn, and 1 Reinforcement of the Army. Finally, we have 3 Infinite Impermanents. In the extra, we've got both halves of CDI, every Cypher Dragon we can muster, followed by Hope Harbinger, Photon Lord, Galaxion, 2 Starliege, 3 Soulflare, and 2 Hip Ho Shinnigan. So with that, let's jump into the games. Our first match is up against Super Heavy Samurai, and yes, that is a little bit of purple in our opponent's opening hand. They have elected to play traps, recognizing the implicit power of good cards, but unfortunately because they're on Super Heavy Samurai, they can only play the ones that banish themselves from the graveyard. We've opened quite well, remember this opening, because we'll perform it basically every game. We're going to start by firing off this Rhoda to get ourselves a Vanisher, then special summon this Thrasher, special summon this Vanisher, getting ourselves another copy of Galaxy Eyes Photon, equip this Orbital, and then send the Orbital to the graveyard for Galaxy Soldier. We'll get that sucker out, getting ourselves a second Galaxy Soldier, special him as well, and now we have everything we need to go off. We'll draw a couple of cards off this Desires before going into a Soulflare, adding the Dragon back, and going into CDI. We'll normal summon a Galaxy Wizard because we did not use our normal summon for a Galaxy Knight to set up for next turn. Our opponent's going to normal summon a Flutist and use the effect. We will CDI that. Afterwards, they're going to special summon a Trumpeteer and use the effect of Soul Peacemaker. We'll activate Soulflare Dragon, but because Flutist is in the graveyard, all it really accomplishes is forcing that. They'll go ahead and use the effect of Soul Peacemaker, and we will chain our Ash Blossom. They'll pass it back to us, and I feel pretty in control of this game. Ooh, but we drew Galaxy Wizard, so let's durdle a little bit more. We're going to go into our remaining Galaxy Soldier and get the Galaxy Knight that we just discarded as well. We'll get in for 2,500 and pass it back to our opponent. Our opponent's going to draw into a copy of Skill Prisoner, so they'll set 1 card, fire off this Rise to Full Height, and pass it back to us. Okay, well now it's time to close this out. We'll normal summon the Galaxy Knight in order to get a dragon back. They will chain skill prisoner. We're going to go ahead and special summon this Photon Dragon to go into a Soul Flare. Then we'll use the effective Soul Flare to get ourselves back a copy of Galaxy Eye's Photon Dragon before attacking. Now, because of the effect of Rise to Full Height, we can't continue to attack, so they're going to get one more turn out of us, but unfortunately they don't draw anything relevant. They'll attack directly, suiciding for 1900 and waiting for the end. I wouldn't want to be staring down a copy of CDI either, so they'll concede. So it's time for game 2, and we have basically been thrown immediately into the deep end on this one. We're playing against Thunder Dragon, a tier 1 deck from this format, which aims to prevent your opponent from searching. Since our game plan involves searching as many times as possible in one game, we'll see how we stack up against Colossus. Our opponent's going to start by activating the effect of their titular monster, Thunder Dragon, before firing off an instant fusion for a Katamari attack, then using Thunder Dragon fusion to go into Super Bolt. They'll then use Bestial to get back this fusion, use this Thunder Dragon one more time, and pass it back to us. Things are looking grim, but we do have an out. We can use Galaxy Soldier, then fire off this Expedition to get another one from deck before going into Nova and Infinity. Infinity can take the Super Bolt, then we'll use the effect of Galaxy Wizard. They chain called, and oof, this is a little trigger happy on me. I negate it with CDI. That's gonna be bad. We're gonna attack directly for 2700 points of damage and then pass it back to our opponent. The first thing our opponent is going to do is fire off this 1-for-1 and wait. This isn't gonna be clown format, is it? This format's gonna really be playable. Oh, come on. Well, here's Needle Fiber, a card that you'll never see in the TCG, but unfortunately negating it puts our monster at risk of being attacked by a Colossus, and that's of course exactly what happens. If we had not negated the called, he would have been able to not attack over it, and we could have just taken it again. We're going to fire off another Galaxy Expedition, then go into a Soul Flare, hoping that it's enough. We'll add back this copy of Photon, but unfortunately it does destroy, and of course Colossus does have built-in protection. Our opponent's going to use the grave effect of this copy of Fusion and then loop it. God, that's so annoying. Then they'll use Avian to get back Bestial, Thunder Dragon to get another Thunder Dragon, Fusion to go into Titan, and then they'll start firing off effects. They're going to destroy, but we will chain our own effect to destroy it. Of course, that does nothing because it only has to banish a card to protect itself. They'll get in for 24 and 32. Things are looking exceptionally grim. I don't think there's anything we can draw. Oh, maybe Pot of Desires will help. We'll fire that off, and oh, Monster Reborn. Well, CDI does not need material to suck, so we'll go ahead and do that and pass it back to our opponent. Unfortunately, 24 is more than 23, so I think we're dead here. We're going to negate the effect of Thunder Dragon Fusion, but it's not enough. They're going to use Avian to get Bolt and then go into Colossus one more time before special summoning double and attacking over for 700 and lethal. Alright, so it's time for game 3, and you know what that means, a best of 3 versus meta. I'm a little concerned to be playing against Sky Striker, given that we just lost to something that's worse than it, but Thunder Dragon feels a little tailor-made to defeat us. Potentially we have more game against this strategy, and what's more important, we're going first. Let's see how far we can get. We'll start by firing off an Accelite for a copy of Galaxy Wizard, then special summon a Photon Vanisher for a Dragon to our hand, and a Soul Flare on our side of the board. We will equip it with an Orbital after adding this Galaxy Wizard back to hand, and pass. Not particularly exciting. Our opponent's hand is stacked. They're going to start by Foolish Burial Goodsing away a Metal Foes Fusion, then Terraforming for a copy of Area 0 before activating Widow Anchor and Area 0 on our Soul Flare, and oh! Multi-Roll is the very last card. They'll go ahead and activate Multi-Roll using Air 0 to get a Ray from deck. We ash it, and I figure if they can't find Ray, maybe we win, but there's the Hornet bit. They're going to go into Hayate, attack directly, send a copy of, you guessed it, Engage to the graveyard before going into Kagari, adding the Engage back, using the Engage to get themselves an Eagle Booster, and drawing into an Infip before using Metal Foes Fusion's effect, setting 3, then using Multi-Roll for 2. Things aren't looking great. We draw into a Photon Sanctuary, so we'll fire that off after Rhoda-ing, and we'll go into Soul Flare and wait. Oh no. Because of Shizuku's continuous effect, we can't special summon Soul Flare because one of these tokens needs to have 2000 attack. That means we're going to have to go into Hippo Shinigami and then normal summon a Galaxy Wizard. That's going to get infipped. We'll special summon a Vanisher. That's enough to make Soul Flare, but unfortunately is too little too late. Our opponent's going to chain a Widow Anchor to its effect. Now we've lost that. We'll go ahead and activate Galaxy Wizard as BM and concede. Alright, so it's time for game 2, and oh, this hand isn't good either. What's with all these OPTs showing up at once? Well, that's fine. We're going to start by normal summoning a Galaxy Wizard, then afterwards we're going to equip a copy of Photon Orbital, use its effect to get ourselves a copy of Vanisher, special summon him to get a Dragon to our hand. Maybe next turn we'll have something useful to do. We'll go into a Galaxy Soldier, discarding this copy of the Dragon to get ourselves another Galaxy Soldier for a future CDI, then use the effect of Soul Flare Dragon to get that Dragon back to our hand, equip a copy of Orbital, and hope for the best. Just like last game. Hopefully it'll work out a little bit better. Our opponent's going to start by Area 0ing, and wow, they just found everything they could have ever wanted off that one. They're going to fire off a Startup Engage, then there's the Multi-Roll activation. We're going to go ahead and ash this, once again hoping that they don't have Ray, but of course they do. They'll go into a Hayate, attack directly, and then, still in battle phase, use this copy of Widow Anchor to take our Soul Flare, Rude, and get in for 2500. Afterwards, they'll use Kagari to get this copy of Engage back to their hand, then go into Nightmare Unicorn so it's live, draw off of Metal Foes Fusion, set 3, and then pop off for 2 with Multi-Roll. Things aren't looking great. We're going to use this Galaxy Soldier to discard a dragon. That gets ashed, unfortunately, but that does mean we can normal summon this Galaxy Knight and get ourselves a dragon from graveyard, so we can then go into Hope Harbinger. Spell negation, I hear, is pretty good against Sky Striker. We'll pass it back to our opponent. Unfortunately, they do have the out. They'll fire off this Air Zero and then chain Widow Anchor. That forces the negate out of the Hope Harbinger, and there's the Infinite Impermanence. They don't get to take it, which is something at the very least. They whiff off of this Area Zero, so things are looking okay, but unfortunately they can just find another one with this terraforming, destroy it with the multi-roll, and then chain Hornet Bit to the grave effect, and Shark Cannon to that. That gets them a Soulflare Dragon, a token, and a Ray as well. They're then going to use the token to go into Hayate, and then go into Kagari off of the token, adding the engage back, and then Boral Sword Dragon. They're going to go into Foolish Burial Goods and a copy of another Widow Anchor. They'll change my guy to defense position and basically wipe my entire board. I'm out of options here, and they have about 8 cards on their side of the board. Let's see what we find. It's an Ash Blossom. We'll set that and let them pop off one more time. They're going to go ahead and start by activating this Area Zero once again on their set card, then chain Eagle Booster on this copy of Boral Sword Dragon. They find, everything under the sun once again. There's another engage. They'll fire that off for a Ray. They're going to use Hornet Bit to get a token to their side of the board, go into Kagari. Kagari is going to get engaged back, normal summon Ray, and go to battle phase. They'll attack with Kagari, attack with Ray, and finish me off with the Boral Sword Dragon. So we're back with the deck, and it has proven itself as an extremely effective sleep aid, if nothing else. First, the pros. 1, it's extremely samey, which means that openings are extremely consistent. I would be surprised if you couldn't produce the Link Monster or Hope Harbinger in any hand but the 2 we had at the very end, to be honest. 2, every card does effectively the same thing. There's about 100 Omni Searchers in this stinker, and I shouldn't have to tell you how good several Stratoses are. And 3, the end board isn't that bad, like a baby Drident and a CDI would have passed for playable a couple of formats ago. And now the cons. 1, it's extremely samey, which means its openings are not adaptable. Currently, the meta consists of about 12 different decks that do 1,000 different things. Not being able to tailor your game plan to the specificity of your opponent's deck is frightening, especially when the boards you build are specifically designed to beat one type of strategy. 2, the cap on this strategy is surprisingly low. It's not like there's a god hand that extra links or anything. An extra rank 4 is just about the best you're going to do. And 3, the usual end board just doesn't stand up to modern standards of efficiency. Don't you think we'd see more CDI if it was actually threatening? All in all, it's certainly a deck with legs, but it seems to lack the torso, arms, and head that the format demands. So that's that. As it turns out, with the exception of Spiral, one Link monster does not a viable archetype make. If you want to see me play the decks I make on this show on stream, I'm on twitch.tv/monobluetron every Monday night from 10 to midnight Eastern Standard Time. And if you have a certain idea for a deck or archetype you want to see me play on a future episode of this show, let me know in the comment section below and I will do my best. Otherwise, I'll see you next week.